Let's go ahead and look at several case studies of some brochures that were redesigned and investigate what in the redesign actually was an improvement and how you can do small things and big things in some cases to refreshen or update a brand. The first organization that we're going to look at is the Brooklyn Center for Urban Environment. And this company basically expressed an interest in redesigning their brochure. They didn't really have an initial intention of redesign, but they were more interested in just updating their content. They had quite a drab design for a piece that represented an organization that taught dynamic subjects such as urban planning, design, urban ecology, and architecture, and it was a bit surprising. The minimal updates to the brochure, such as updating it to 2 colors and getting rid of the headline rules and the dingbats that seemed to date the piece, were applied, and that was definitely an improvement. They were very happy with these minimal changes, and the following year they decided to completely redesign the entire brochure. There wasn't a budget for professional photographs or illustrations, so the artwork on the cover was a leaf that was taken directly from their logo. And the artwork is clean, it's simple, it's modern, and it could also serve as an extension of their identity, so people would start to immediately recognize that this was the brochure from Brooklyn Center for the Urban Environment. The leaf artwork was a very strong visual to use because when you looked at the leaf lines closely, the lines started to become streets and intersection, which made a nice reference to the urban planning. Inside layout details such as the curved headers and the images appearing in circles were designed to give the piece a more organic feeling and to relate better to the environmental aspects of the program. The sans serif font was chosen for the font, and this helped to give the piece clarity, a more modern and timeless look. The client definitely appreciated the use of color. This helped in a great amount. It helped to provide warmth and intrigue to the brochure. The earthy colors were an organic use of shapes throughout the brochure, helped to strengthen and tie in with their brand, especially using the leaf element that really helped to tie in with the logo. And the analogy to the veins and the leaves of the city streets was extremely insightful, and they really appreciated that little kind of subliminal message that was added into the brochure design. The design now relates much more strongly to urban environments than the previous rectangular layout and the black and white layout, and basically it kind of makes people want to get involved. And this project incidentally evolved into 2 additional brochures, one for their pre-K programs to 8th grade programs and the other for the high school programs. The next organization that we're going to look at is basically a company that handcrafts ukuleles, and they initially didn't actually have a brochure. So what they were looking for was something that could highlight the beauty and craftsmanship of their top-of-the-line products. As you can see from their initial marketing features, they didn't use any images, and they definitely need something that was a little bit more eye-catching and that said quality, craftsmanship, top of the line. So this is some of the elements of the new design. The design now reflects the craftsmanship and the work, and it's going to definitely be a benefit in promoting the product. There were posters, catalogs, and brochures, and trade show graphics were created, and this really helped to showcase the ukuleles and take them to the next level. The response from the client is that the product sales have been climbing steadily, and all in all, the new marketing pieces present a luxurious and tasteful color palette. The product detail, the coordinating style, the color scheme, the new logo, they all are going to aid in establishing a brand identity for this particular company. The old marketing materials might leave someone wondering if they were all the same company and under the same management, because there's no conformity, there was no uniform direction, and now that is obviously not an issue, since everything is, even though it's different, there's a visual connection with all the elements that are part of this branding package. and it certainly feels like this particular ukulele maker makes exquisite musical instruments. The next company is the HROI, and they were basically utilizing a simple two-sided brochure. This brochure was initially created in Word, and it was very, very difficult to print, especially by a commercial printer. The design, if you can call it that, really got lost, and the brochure really has no clear message. The dark and harsh colors, the chaotic layout of the type, the cryptic message, it just really creates confusion. The brochure also had, and it's hard to see right here, but this portion of the page of the layout was like a tear-off section that had information for people to contact. It actually tore off, a portion of it tore off to business card size, so someone could slip it into their business card holder. But again, this was not a very good execution of this particular of media. This brochure had really no visual appeal. The front is way too dark, and it's not friendly, and it has no meaningful message, and it was just quickly tossed away without being looked at. The back was cluttered and caused confusion. So in the redesign, the front of the HROI brochure now features a photograph of a crowd tightly cropped in, and this helps to suggest HROI's core capital people. The warm color palette of orange and red was chosen for warmth and attention, as well as a more pleasing balanced layout. And the tear-off section contains contact information on the front and the back. The back of the card was optimized to have important information so that the tear-off could stand alone, as well as the rest of the portion of the brochure could stand off alone as well. So this portion now helps to create the tear-off. So now the brochure conveys a warm, informative, yet direct and simple message from this particular company. The issue of the tear-off has been solved, and overall the whole brochure is warmer, it's more people-friendly. It basically filled the goals of the company much better. This company, the Minturn Inn, they basically wanted to establish a clean logo and brand that would reflect the elegant, rustic atmosphere of their bed and breakfast. So after several design directions were presented to the client, they were narrowed in onto a simple aspen leaf design for their logo. The logo color that the client liked was a deep rustic red and a rich green. So both versions were utilized throughout the application of their materials, and the logo is 2 tones of green when used in a multicolor situations, and the deep rustic red for one color. The new identity was basically incorporated into the collateral material, including brochure, website, stationery, and apparel. The Minturn Inn's original logo definitely fulfilled the rustic and perhaps elegant part, but it did look dated, and it was kind of cumbersome, especially if it was going to be applied to a variety of application. The innkeepers were wise to want to simplify the logo while retaining an elegant organic look that would complement the Rocky Mountain setting. The simple, clean logo that is extremely versatile on a wide range of applications used in these sophisticated and elegant colors. They're still earthy and organic, but all of these elements, the logo, the type, the colors, they all impart a classy yet friendly and warm image that should do very well to attract visitors to this particular mountain retreat. The brochure displays oversized photos that showcase the beauty of the inn, and the pictures really speak volumes to prove to be the best selling point. The text works well with plenty of white space. It does not overpower the viewer, but invites them to read more, and it also complements the layout of the photos, helping to frame them. All in all, the inn now has a good layout to showcase itself. This particular brochure was a brochure for LAHQ's organization, and it was to communicate activities dealing with membership in particular. It was to promote upcoming events, recap past events, and bring particular issues to the attention of the various members. The name that they were basically calling this is Focus, and in the initial design, the masthead, it seems to contain some sort of logo, but no one ever was really sure how the design came about or if it was official. Previously, the brochure was basically produced by various member volunteers. It's a single 11 by 17 sheet folded in half to form a 4-page 8.5 by 11 format, so basically a bifold, and it was printed in 2 colors, the royal blue and the black, on a glossy stock. The Los Angeles Business Association requested that the brochure be redesigned. They wanted a complete overhaul of the design, and they basically allowed the designer to change anything that they wanted to. So they were free to change the masthead, the logo, the colors, the layout. The only requirement was that it remained 2-color and that it retained the same features and size. So they wanted a brochure that would reflect the professionalism and vitality of the members and still have a consistent look. Before the redesign, there was an inconsistent look and format. Standard features moved around. They never had the same look and feel. Each iteration had something was different. The masthead always stayed blue, but the other elements did change in color. So there was no real hierarchy here. There was kind of a haphazard smattering of different sized boxes, each competing with each other due to similarity in size, but with no real differing header treatment. The images were often tipped at an angle, which is sometimes interesting, but it needs to be used sparingly. And when it's overused, it tends to give a look of chaos. So the other thing that's going on here is they were using a 4-column grid, and this was a little problematic because it was actually too narrow for the text, so it was creating awkward word spacing, and it created rivers in the text, and legibility was definitely difficult, and it definitely just wasn't a good way to present so much material. The entire piece was created using a serif font, and this font was used in every conceivable way: regular, bold, italic, small caps, all caps, condensed caps, extended caps, but they were all different sizes, and it gave a very chaotic look to this particular brochure. All of these various styles were kind of vying for attention, and any sort of hierarchy kind of disappeared. So there was a variety of treatments of font alignment as well: center, justified, and left, and again, that just kind of aided in creating the chaos. In the redesign, the logo or the masthead it was redesigned to be a more contemporary look. The previously, that kind of bullseye O clashed with the typeface of the original design. So in order to retain the emphasis of the O in the word focus, it was actually made to be a different color. And in addition, to help with the branding, this little O was reduced to an icon, and it was used to indicate the end of a particular article. Because of the name focus, that became the most prominent word in the masthead needed to reflect the vitality and community involvement of the association, so the verbiage was updated with the use of action verbs throughout the piece. The paper was changed to matte, and the bright royal blue that was used previously was updated with a more muted, sophisticated kind of steel blue. The brochure had to be black plus 1 PMS color. The PMS color palette was established to differentiate between multiple publications, and then 4 PMS colors were selected that complemented the muted blue: a sage green, a soft rust or burnt orange type shade, and a dark mustard color, so that when they printed the other brochures that they were doing, they would all work well together. It was immediately visually clear that it was a different publication. The number of typefaces was brought down to 3. There were 2 sans serifs and 1 serif for the contact. The headings and the bulk of the body text are sans serif, and the serif was used for the president's message that was included. The sans serif typeface helped to look cleaner and a little bit more contemporary. And then finally, a 3-column grid layout was established that helped the type to flow more smoothly and to give more flexibility, as well as more interest to the page layout itself. And the new look was definitely very well received. The next example we're going to be looking at is the Girl Scouts of Gateway Council, and they basically decided that they wanted to kind of broaden the appeal of the brochure that they were using. This was originally only sent to adult troop leaders and volunteers, but now they wanted to include the girls, so they definitely needed to, have a fresh, modern makeover that would appeal to the girls. And then, of course, the way they delivered the information, since an age range of girls would be reading it, it needed to be laid out a little bit differently. So initially, a creative brief to identify the direction, key messages, and the desired results was made. And once the name Discover and the positioning statement were established, then the concepting process began. And they wanted to keep the theme of discover in mind. They wanted to think about the target audience, and so they researched the target audience, and the research was done towards young girls, tween girls to young teen girls, and they came up with ideas, images, graphics, typography, and colors that were very popular with that age demographics, and these were noted and used for the final design mock-ups. So once the concept, the color palette, all these things were decided, then the focus shifted to what was on the inside, starting with making the informational charts easier to read and more uniform. Icons for certain information that needed to stand out were also used. This gave it a graphical reference and made it easier for the eye to scan and find the information that you wanted to read. It also served to create more of a flow and make it more aesthetically pleasing. In addition, since the brochure goes to people of different age demographics, like we were talking about, the various sections were color-coded so that readers can find age-appropriate content quickly. And now the redesigned brochure has a broader appeal, and it implements a new chart encoding system to make the navigation through the piece much easier. So you can see from these examples that redesigning, or even an initial design, there are many considerations that you want to factor in, and the layout and the design, the use of color, the use of photographs, the various elements are extremely important, and they certainly are going to affect the end result.